I am sick and tired of everybody always telling me that American motorcycles are too slow to pass Japanese or Italian motorcycles. So I went out and I bought this Buell XB12R Firebolt right here, specifically with the goal of passing somebody on a racetrack on the outside when we're both on the gas, because that means once and for all, the American motorcycle can be pretty quick. By the way, I'm giving this motorcycle away. You can click the link down in the description to get yourself entered to win if you want. Now, to give this thing a good fighting chance on the racetrack, it's gonna need a little love first.
When I bought this bike, the tires that it had on it had aged like a glass of milk under a heat lamp, so they had to come off.
Once again, guys, we have found ourselves back at AF1. They have come to the rescue to help me mount these tires up really fast because they have hydraulics and pneumatics and all that shit, which makes it so much easier than me just sitting in my garage with spoons.
Just in case you're curious, these are Angel STs, which I don't think I've ever actually seen in person. Usually I see the GT. And these are from 22, and these are mega crusty.
A huge shout out to John at AF1 for mounting up these tires. I swear to God, I was this close to coming here earlier this morning and just being like, you know what, dude, I've got a track day tomorrow, just sell me this bike. Because they have this multi-strata right here for like $6 grand and it's on 17s, and it probably would have been fine, but mercifully John literally saved me like $6,500 today.
I also put a fresh set of brake pads and fluid in there, but other than that, we're riding it as it came to me, and that means it's time to hit the racetrack.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous about taking this Buell out because I'm gonna tell you the truth, I actually haven't ridden it yet. I mean, I've ridden it around the block. I test rode it when I bought it, and I was like, this bike needs some work. And then I did the work and I was like, okay, the bike rolls. Let's put it in the truck and go to the racetrack. So I literally have not put any street miles on this bike. I have maybe a combined 15 minutes in the saddle on it. So this is literally the roughest way to shake down a motorcycle. So fingers crossed. As it turns out, that was eerily prescient. My first session out on this motorcycle was one of the worst I had ever had. And don't get me wrong, the motor in this bike was awesome. It was a ton of fun to rev out, but it was fighting me around every single corner. The bike was slow to tip in, it wouldn't hold a line, and every single time I got on the brakes, I felt it pogoing off the bottom of the springs. To give you an idea of how bad this felt worse than my Sportster on its stock suspension. And remember, Buell and the Firebolt here was supposed to be Harley-Davidson's sport bike offering, and yet here's me at Circuit of the Americas worrying that I had screwed myself over because instead of bringing a bastardized cruiser, I brought a Harley sport bike. But look, I wasn't gonna write the Buell off after one session, so I went over to Roger at On-Road Off-Road, who sets up all of my motorcycles and their suspensions, to see if he could work his magic on this thing before we went back out.
I'm hoping I get a good feeling. Quick after action report. I get a feeling from a bike is very good, so I push it very hard. No, honestly, I went from the ass end kind of sitting down low and just not feeling very good. It wasn't responsive, and now it's feeling very good. Very, very good.
Let me elaborate on that a little bit and give you a specific example. One of the toughest sections of COTA is turns 3 through 9. It's 7 corners in a row where every apex is in a different direction, meaning that you have to get the bike pointed in a different direction as you, the rider, are constantly moving from side to side. When I was fighting the bike, it was physically exhausting, but now it was easy. I even started to vibe with the sport bike seating position.
And I hate clip-ons. I do not like clip-ons. I don't like sport bikes. I don't like being leaned forward. And this thing feels amazing. The best thing I can say about it is it's an American Tuono, man.
But you'll notice I wasn't actually passing anybody, so it was time to go back out, put my head down, and get to work.
And there was much rejoicing.
It finally happened. I passed somebody on the brakes, and I love how in that clip the guy just had to get right in front of me because he was sick and tired of being behind the Buell on the back straight. He had to get right in front of me and then just hop right on the brakes way too early, and I shot right past him. Nice little piece of schadenfreude there. And to everybody out there who told me that the front brake on the Buell wasn't going to be able to keep up with track riding, I call bullshit. I was repeatedly told by multiple people, whether it's on the Discord server, at AF1 Racing, or even out there on the racetrack, that I could not trust this front brake, that it was going to overheat and I was going to experience crazy brake fade. And sure, maybe if you're Valentino Marquez out there setting fast lap times and racing on this thing, sure, maybe the stock hardware can't keep up with you. But for the average rider out there running at intermediate plus paces like I am on the racetrack, this thing works great. And not only does it work well, it's working great with a stock master cylinder from 20 years ago. Look, I know there's going to be some skeptical people out there who are still thinking that this is unsafe. Who are you going to believe? Some guy on a forum or this? Now look, it might be cool to pass somebody on the brakes, but that simply wasn't going to be good enough to prove my point that the American sport bike can keep up with the Japanese and the Italians. All that means is that I'm a little bit braver and I'm willing to brake a little bit later than somebody else is. If I wanted to prove the point, I have to catch them on the gas. And I did not care what it took to get the job done. I was going to make it happen.
And there was much rejoicing.
Alrighty folks, I wanted to show you what went into making that pass happen. I had been chasing this bike for multiple laps, and it's a built ZX4RR. I have the specs right here. This is the first passing opportunity. Coming out of 14 and into 15, there's a nice straight stretch, and you can see me kind of chop the throttle there because it's a track day. I didn't want to try to force something to happen, especially when we have another passing zone right here. And you could see he was offline, which left me with this nice juicy straight. But the problem is, he gets in the power and then I can't quite keep up with it. But where I did have the opportunity is right here at 19. 19 is a fast corner. People always get on the brakes. And if I can get the drive, I know I can race him to turn 20, which is exactly what happens here. I get nice and close and I let the bike have it. Problem is, the straight's just not that long, and I have to give it up because I don't want to pass him on the inside, force him off the apex. It's a track day, not a race. But coming into turn 1, I knew this was going to be the best opportunity I had. So I was just like, you know what? Screw it. I'm sending it here and we're gonna see what happens. And I'm actually pretty far back from him. I'm a good 4 or 5 bike lengths away. And so I just rely on that torque to start closing the gap here. And I'm just like, get after it, Buell. I don't care, just do it. And you can see he's all set up. He's going quick, but he's riding the candy stripes, and you don't need to quite be there. You've got a little bit more speed you can play with here. And so I just whoop right around the outside, and I get up on the curbing because it's FIM paint and you actually have really great traction there. But we're gonna stick with this just a little longer because you can see I'm starting to reel in that V4 in front of us. And right here you can see it just kind of goes to show it's not necessarily true that these leader bikes are going to leave you in the dust everywhere. If you can play to your bike's particular strengths, you can catch bikes that are much faster or much more expensive. Now, with my mission accomplished, I decided to quit while I was ahead and call the day a little bit earlier. It was hot as balls, and this is an air and oil-cooled motorcycle that was never really intended to be ridden on a racetrack like COTA. When I pulled back in the pits, I noticed that there was a bunch of weird rattling sounds coming from the bike, and I had to pull over and just look and see what was shaking itself to pieces. And as it turns out, I was on the verge of losing my exhaust pipe.
If you can see that bolt, watch it turn.
The exhaust is coming loose. The bike was also starting to idle just a little bit funny because of how warm it was. Again, air and oil cooled, and there's only so much giant scoops, a fan under the seat, and an oil cooler can do to keep this thing running right in heat like that, which is probably why most manufacturers have switched to liquid cooling. I mean, even Buell did too. The exact same year that this bike right here was at a dealership in 2008, Buell announced their 1125R, which was their new liquid-cooled V-twin capable of putting down almost 150 horsepower. It's too bad that instead of being rewarded with additional investment for this achievement, Harley-Davidson decided to reward them with a very swift closing. But let's answer the main question for today's video, and that is, could this bike right here thaw my frozen heart and show me the way of the sport bike? And actually, it kinda did. It was amazing how much this package just worked on the racetrack. I seriously wasn't expecting to fall in love with this motorcycle the way that I did. It was so easy to ride this thing fast. In fact, if I was smart, I would take all the money that I have earmarked for my Sportster build, and instead of investing it into that bike, I would just run out and buy another one of these once I'm done giving this one away. Again, link down below. Problem is, I'm not smart, so I gotta figure out how to make my Sportster handle as good as this thing right here. I think that's a losing battle.